All right. Well, I tell you what, let's go ahead and get started. Again, welcome to the program. Those of us at ISSA and ICE Cobotics sincerely welcome you and thank you for your time today. And today we have with us our expert, Steve Hatley. He's a director of strategic accounts at ICE Cobotics. Steve, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Happy to be here.
Let's go ahead and move into our presentation then, Steve, if you're ready. And I'll say this, for those that don't know ICE Cobotics, Steve, could you give us a quick intro to your company and to your brand?
Yeah, absolutely, Jeff. So ICE Cobotics, we are a global organization, and we design and manufacture both autonomous and non-autonomous commercial floor cleaning equipment. And we actually go to market with an all-inclusive subscription model, which provides our customer base fixed costs, transparency, and predictability around their fleet program. And we recently went through a global rebranding effort to change our name from ICE Robotics to ICE Cobotics, which I think further cements our commitment to this collaboration between people and smart technology.
Very neat. Let's move on to our next point. It seems like there are a lot of benefits to implementing cobots. Part of the reason we're here today is to learn about ICE Cobotics' new cobot. So Steve, can you introduce us to your new cobot today?
Yeah, so I think as we introduce this term cobotics, we really wanted to focus on the fact that it's all about collaboration. Cobots work alongside staff and not in place of staff to help to do a number of things, such as increasing productivity. So, while a cobot cleans the floors, for example, staff can focus on other cleaning priorities like wiping down high-touch surfaces, increase efficiency. Because cobots learn routes, they continue to improve those routes and become more efficient over time, thus eliminating human errors, such as missing spots and not coming back. We talk a lot about freeing staff up from repetitive tasks like mopping the floor, vacuuming, tasks that take a long time. Some sources say that employees can spend up to 80% of their time just cleaning the floors. And that's a lot of precious time that can be spent on a number of other cleaning priorities. Staff can focus on customers and building patrons. Freeing up your employees to focus on customers in a retail setting, for example, can have a significant impact on a business. I think today's shoppers are increasingly critical of clean environments, and they want to have the best possible experience if they're going to go into an actual brick and mortar store. So by allowing your employees to focus on customers, we think your store is more likely to gain a loyal customer base. Additionally, they eliminate injuries and alleviate mental stress. RSIs, or repetitive stress injuries, can cause a lot of downtime for employees. And so because these cobots are taking on repetitive tasks, we think staff's less likely to develop these injuries. And lastly, we spend a lot of time talking about elevating the role of your employees, or this, utility of the workforce. Today's workers, they want to learn new skills, they want to work with new technology, and they want more responsibility. So by bringing on cobots, we think employers can give their staff that opportunity to work with more sophisticated technology and learn new skills.
Makes sense. Thank you for that information. I believe, Steve, it's time for our first audience poll. So Martha, let's tee that up and get everyone engaged with this. So here's our question. Are you currently using any autonomous equipment in your facility? It's a pretty simple question. Yes or no? Let's see what happens. We'll leave this live for a few seconds and kind of get a feel for the audience today, Steve.
Sounds good.
Okay, well, it looks like about 20% are using autonomous equipment and 81% are not, but that means they're here to learn something about this. So very interesting information. Okay, thank you for that poll, Martha. So Steve, it looks like perfect timing as we're seeing more and more autonomous solutions come into the market in the cleaning industry. Can you give us a little background on this emergence, including industry acceptance and how you're gaining momentum so far?
Yeah, certainly. So Jeff, I think the desire and the excitement to innovate and utilize automation has certainly always been there. But what we've learned is that the actual implementation for the end user has been difficult for a variety of reasons. In the past, this technology has been hard to integrate into the facility. It's been an expensive capital outlay, and most importantly, challenging to deploy and use in a consistent manner. In some cases, even today, we see technology that still requires an actual engineer to deploy the units and program routes. This has led to unexpected operational costs and a heavy reliance on the OEM to support basic day-to-day tasks that the unit was intended to do. However, I think we are beginning to see that as we return to work, adjust to heightened cleaning standards, and continue to battle this current labor shortage, that the industry as a whole is beyond, this wow factor with automation and innovating just for the sake of checking a box. Rather, we're seeing our customers take a much more diligent approach in just better understanding the critical factors of how to successfully and efficiently deploy automation simply as a smarter tool to solve those tasks, such as scrubbing the floor.
Makes sense. And it's time for another poll question. So let's get the audience to engage with this. Our question is, what is your biggest challenge with implementing automation? Of course, you can choose hard to integrate, expensive, unreliable, hard to deploy. So let's give that a few seconds and then see what the results look like. Everyone likes a good test. This is a pretty simple one today. All right, so there we have our results. 16% say it's hard to integrate, 65% expensive, 9% unreliable, and 9% hard to deploy. So we can address some of these issues, Steve, as we go through our presentation today. So thank you for that information so far. And Steve, as you noted, one of the main issues with bringing on automation has been figuring out the best way to implement autonomous solutions into an organization. Now with Emma, Wiz, and now Kobe, I'm guessing you have a great perspective on what it takes to implement this automation into facility operations. So why don't you share some of those tips with us?
Yeah, absolutely, Jeff. So we suggest being aware of really 4 main components for successful implementation. Number 1 is identifying well-manufactured equipment that performs and is equipped with simple technology that can be self-deployed. Number 2, and as we see from the poll just now, you need affordable acquisition options. We're trying to lower the financial barriers to entry in the space and encourage, a wide acceptance of automation. Number 3, you need reliable service models that can quickly identify and fix problems that arise in the field to reduce downtime. And number 4, in my humble opinion, I think probably the most important is not only an appetite or an excitement for automation, but a true sense of preparedness for change management and how it will impact your current business model. And Jeff, for us, this is where we see a defining line in the sand of when automation can go incredibly well or fail.
I hear you. That makes sense. Let's do this. Let's dig into one of these. Tell us more about what you mean by simple technology and equipment that operates effectively.
Yeah, so in terms of simple technology or equipment that performs well, we're often referring to autonomous floor cleaning equipment that's easy to teach and operate. So with the current labor market, our customers just don't have time to deal with a machine that's too difficult to teach their employees to operate, nor do they have the patience to deal with a machine that doesn't work. And in terms of equipment that operates effectively, we're talking about how intuitive it is to self-deploy as well as teach autonomous routes actually without the manufacturer even being involved. We suggest looking at the user interface on the machine and the process involved in teaching the machine a route. So with our latest technology, Kobe, which is a compact autonomous scrubber, it's very easy to quickly map a route and save it to the cloud. Plus, we have multiple mapping modes that makes it easier for employees to train the unit, whether they wish to walk a specific path or create a boundary around the area to be cleaned and let the machine autofill the most efficient route. And additionally, we've designed the user interface in a way where, in a manner of clicks, the operator can start the unit on an autonomous route so that he or she can get to the all the other tasks that they might be responsible for in their shift.
Sounds good. And people do like simple. They want it to work. But simple is good. Here we go. Another online or another audience poll. So let's put it up. What are your biggest challenges with current staff? And your options are training, absenteeism, turnover, job growth, or other. Now, if you put other, we don't know what your other is, but we do have our 4 good options here to look at. Okay. So Steve, I'm not sure if some of these poll answers are a surprise to you, but it's interesting to see some of the challenges out there that automation can help solve. So it's interesting to do these polls and see that. So let's talk, Steve, about what people should look for. What should our listeners look for to find autonomous equipment that demonstrates reliability?
Yeah, so Jeff, we suggest looking for consistent performance, right? Identifying if the machine routinely does the same thing over and over. I encourage the audience to ask yourself, does it hold up? This means looking at materials used in manufacturing, the stability of the software and technology, and confirming that the machine cleans effectively. So in the case of an autonomous scrubber, for example, this means cleaning to the edge, picking up debris, laying clean water down on the floor and drying the floor afterwards. Looking for these proof points, I think, is important, will impact overall productivity in, any facility.
Interesting. So can you tell us a little bit more about how Coby fits into an affordable acquisition model?
Yeah, so we offer Coby 18 as well as all of our equipment through an all-inclusive subscription model. We think this makes bringing on automation especially easy and less risky for our clients. The subscription is all-inclusive, so it includes parts, consumables, access to our fleet management software, and regular updates at no extra cost, plus support from our service team. And, Jeff, you will never have a conversation with us about warranty parts. We will manage everything. And because we are vertically integrated, we control the operating system, service, parts. Truly is an all-inclusive model directly with the manufacturer. And I think this goes hand in hand with our third tip to bring on automation, which is looking for a reliable service model. And I think this is where we see the subscription model having huge benefits for equipment users, as there's no real burden of owning that equipment or the service costs that are associated. Plus, we'll send a service technician to the location if there's ever a need for on-site repairs. And when you factor in the insight that our team gains from fleet management software, we can actually prepare the service technician well ahead of time regarding what's actually wrong with the machine, which helps reduce downtime.
Well, that sounds great. On the rare occasion that something happens, you're there to take care of things. You promise we don't have to worry about it. That's good to know. A good warranty system is important. It's time for another online poll. So let's do this one. What have been your biggest challenges when purchasing a machine? And so we have unexpected costs, downtime, outdated equipment, and unreliable service. Let's see what happens here. And I do want to remind everyone, we have our poll questions, which we appreciate your input, but we also have our Q&A portal as well. So if you have a specific question to ask Steve, we'll do that during the Q&A at the end of our webinar. So some of these are pretty even, Steve, but there's our poll results. Unexpected cost, 34%, downtime, 37%, outdated equipment, 10%, and unreliable service at 20%. So we can see there are a few concerns in the industry with that. Let's move on, Steve. Let's talk about this. To recap so far, the first 3 tips for bringing on automation are simple technology and equipment that operates effectively, affordable acquisition models, and reliable service. So that brings us to tip number 4. I believe we talked about the third point there, but tell us more about what you mean by customer and OEM responsibility.
Yeah, so what we mean by that is, as I alluded to earlier, and I'm passionate about this topic. We ask that our clients have not only an appetite for automation, but truly be prepared for the change management involved and be disciplined in their approach. This can include things like evaluating the environment and determining how automation is going to change day-to-day procedures. So kind of ask, if we implement automation today, then what other changes might we have to make tomorrow? So for example, a process change that might occur is recognizing if displays have been moved since the last route teaching, or making sure items on a shelf are tucked back into place before deploying the cobot. You want to gain company-wide acceptance. This means getting everyone on board across all levels of the enterprise and designating true automation champions, those that are going to ensure that the facility is adopting to automation. And this means examining how it might change the current business model. We talk about budget, of course, determining ROI, It's important to understand how investing in smarter tools like automation might offset certain costs, but in some cases it might actually, add financial value, whether that be an increase in customers at a store or guests in a hotel, or perhaps winning more janitorial business with better defined processes. I think every customer and every enterprise defines ROI somewhat differently. So, it's important to identify the goals and metrics in which it will be measured. Last, you want to introduce automation to your employees. Let staff know that automation is a smarter tool. It benefits them. As we spoke to earlier, it's filling in the gaps where there just isn't the labor force. Autonomous solutions, we believe, are no longer a want. They truly are a necessity for all position levels.
That sounds like smart business. So thank you for those details. And it makes sense. Let's talk about this. Assuming a company gets through all of this, they champion the onboard, introduce it to staff, make process changes, and the details with that. How does an organization then go to scale on all of this?
Yeah, and I think that it was encouraged by the poll question, right? It's important to provide staff with training. Training in a high turnover market is essential. When staff is frustrated, they're more likely to leave. ICE Cobotics, we recognize that, and we're here to help with that. So we've actually designed an online training platform for every piece of equipment that we offer, which includes training videos, tutorials, user manuals, quick start guides, and more. So we've certainly built this training and support into our model with a very dynamic environment in mind. And Jeff, we're working with new markets that have relied on a mop and bucket and very traditional ways of cleaning for a long time. So we've built an intuitive product that can easily blend into your current daily operational procedures without causing too many issues. And as we spoke to earlier, the awareness and the willingness to adapt has to be there. But in the case of Kobe, it's very easy to use. We've designed the technology with scale in mind and the organization's ability to implement across the entire enterprise with ease. And finally, I'd say utilizing fleet management can also help a company scale. So our platform, ICE Energy, for example, allows our users to access real-time data across one or multiple sites. This data machine tracking can be done by one person from any location. So this allows those in charge to have a better idea of how the cleaning is being done, by whom, and when. Which can directly impact the facility's operational processes. So, we think this data will help the business to scale because they can review that information more regularly and then change processes to be more efficient, save time, and in the long run, hopefully saving money.
Steve, I think that we all love a real life example. So can you give one of those? Give us an example of how bringing an autonomous equipment program has worked for one of your clients.
Yeah, you bet. So, I think when everything comes together, it can actually be a lot of fun. And what comes to mind recently is the autonomous technology that we actually place inside of a well-known resort, actually here in my backyard, here in Scottsdale, Arizona. And so when we arrived to help deploy the equipment, our champion had already unpackaged the products. They watched a couple of, training videos on our website, and in fact, had already mapped a few routes before us even getting on site. He told us just how intuitive that process was, which, as you can imagine, as a manufacturer, is just music to our ears. And what's interesting is for this particular resort, they weren't necessarily challenged with staff to clean. They were actually at full staff. They simply saw automation as a more efficient means to solve one of the many tasks that their housekeeping team was responsible for, which allowed them to be more engaged with guests, right? The obvious. Improve guest satisfaction scores, hopefully leading to booking more rooms and higher revenues. Their HR team actually held a fun competition to name the units, and they even placed custom wraps on the equipment that actually mirrored the staff uniform. So truly an example of an engaged client.
That's a great story. Thank you for sharing that. It's nice to see the engagement with staff in an organization that takes off like that. Well, it's time for another poll question. So let's put that up. What are your biggest challenges when adopting new technology? And your options are getting stakeholders invested, getting cost approved, process changes, and adapting facilities and staff responsibilities. So we'll give you folks a moment to engage with the poll and put in your information. And thank everyone for the, I want to thank everyone for the comments in the chat as well. I'm glad that you're enjoying the webinar. Okay, here's our results. Getting stakeholders invested, about 29% say that's their biggest challenge. Getting cost approved, 29%. Process changes, 14%. And adapting facilities and staff responsibilities at 29%. So there it is, Steve. That's the data for you to think on. And as we think about that, let's talk about another important subject, safety. Mm-hmm. Are OEMs concerned about safety? And what can OEMs do to ensure safety in their facility?
Of course we are. Safety is a top priority, I think, for us in any OEM. We're constantly working on new ways to make sure that our equipment is safe and operating in a safe manner in, any environment to which it's deployed. But to start, I think, certain things that I would encourage you to look out for would be everything from, consider automation with safety signals, noise indicators, emergency stop buttons. We go back to just the overall manufacturing process. You want to make sure that you have a high performing dry mop and squeegee assembly just to reduce the potential for slip and falls. In terms of the operating system, you certainly want to look for reactive navigation, a unit that's highly sensitive to objects in the environment to prevent it from running into obstacles. Of course, we always advocate for wet floor signs, et cetera, but to take a bigger step back, I would say holistically consider adding automation. Can have a positive impact on employee safety overall because you're reducing the risk of a repetitive stress injury from some of those strenuous tasks that a cobot can now replace.
Well, thank you, Steve. It does sound like ICE Cobotics has spent a great deal of attention on efficient implementation strategies for autonomous equipment. Do you have any additional comments to add about Coby or implementing automation?
Yeah, and Jeff, I think our peers in the space would tell you the same thing, which is do your research. There's a lot of great companies in our space. You want to find an OEM that can provide a high quality, high performing machine and be a true partner well beyond the sales cycle and one that can actually hold you accountable to your investment and the goals that you put in place. I know this might sound crazy, but from our lens, really the technology is the easy part. As I've alluded to, it's the change management involved. So it's important to do your due diligence with preparedness and kind of, again, going back to the poll questions, don't underestimate how important it is to communicate how and why you're implementing automation, be that to internal stakeholders or external stakeholders, such as customers or guests.
Well, Steve, it looks like from what we can see on screen that we're going to look at a demonstration. So Coby 18 demonstration. Can you tell us a little bit about what we're about to see?
Yeah, you bet. So for the audience, we're going to see a quick video. Jake, one of our account managers, is going to be in there, and we're going to highlight a couple of things. Number one, we're going to show just the different modes of teaching a route, which includes a custom. So Jake will, walk the unit for a full route, and then it'll run that route. Autofill, which is where we will actually teach the perimeter of the route and let Coby fill in the rest on its own. And then we'll also show how to use the machine in manual mode or just as a traditional auto scrubber if you ever had to spot clean, for example. You're also going to see different ways to efficiently schedule routes, which might include multiple route options, or we'll call that sequencing, running multiple routes back to back. We'll talk about scheduled starts if you wanted to, schedule Coby to run at a later time. And finally, we're just going to give kind of a brief explanation of, how easy it is to maintain the machine and how to view the data that you receive from cleaning in our ICE Energy app.
Well, let's watch.
So we have 3 different styles of routing in the machine. You can do manual mode, you can do custom mode, or you can do autofill. So we're going to do a custom route. So we're going to select this to teach. It's going to scan the QR code. We're going to select the next available route, which is C. We're going to choose custom. We're going to hit the blue button. The brush and the squeegee are going to drop down. The motor's going to kick in. So we're going to teach an autofill route. We're going to click the teach button down here. It's going to scan the HLC code. We're going to click the next available route. We're going to click autofill. We're going to hit the blue button. We're going to train it. As we do it, Coby's going to scan the environment, sees where it's at, so it can safely and efficiently run this route after we bring it back home. Just scan and save it. All these routes are saved in the cloud, so it's not specific to the machine. Coby's an autonomous floor scrubber, but we found the need to do the just mop mode. So instead of pulling out a mop and bucket, we can just spot clean. So if you go to the person right there, just hit the 1. It's going to push down all the brushes, and you can easily pick up and spot clean. So in Coby, we can run multiple routes on one home location code, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So you hit autonomous, it's going to scan the code. You can simply select the routes, up to 6 routes that you want to select. From this instance, we'll hit 1. You're going to hit the check mark, select the mode you want to clean in, fold the handle down, hit the blue button. If you want your night staff to clean while they're away, we can do a scheduled task, which you can run routes at a certain time. So to do that, we're going to hit the timer right here. We're going to do a scheduled task, hit the plus button. I'm going to choose route A, hit the check mark. We're going to choose eco mode to clean in, hit the check mark. And this is actually going to be the time of day that you're setting it for. So we want this to run at 12:38. So we'll set it as that, create the scheduled task, and at 12:38, it's going to run on its own. So we have an easy to use onboard charger powered by lithium-ion battery here. Bring it over to you guys. So we have our easy to use handle, opens right up. There's a power button. We have an emergency stop for safety. Inside here, we have a recovery tank and solution tank. Easily removable. You can fill the solution tank with a cap right here. Take the screen out, add your chemical. Brush is toolless, just twist right out. Hopper comes right out. Side brushes pop in. So after you're done cleaning for the day, you can go to the iSynergy app and check your clean score. From here, you can check the cleaned area, usage time. You can see if you met your goal based on the goals that were set.
Well, Steve, that's a great demonstration video. I think I can run that tool. Coby looks simple to use and maintain. How does the maintenance differ from other autonomous equipment on the market? Talk about that if you could.
Yeah, Jeff, we really pride ourselves, on this point, just as a manufacturer. I'd say because our equipment was designed by cleaning professionals for cleaning professionals, every detail with Coby was thoughtfully constructed. That's everything from the magnetic squeegee, the click-on, click-off brushes, the slide-in, slide-out hopper, these, Jake referenced, the dual removable tank, the dry mop. It's a slide-on, slide-off, easily replaced part. So, everything is toolless.
So it's impressive. There are some cool features on Coby. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the ideal environment and why that is.
Yeah, so Jeff, I'd say Coby is ideal for small spaces and complex environments. We've listened to the market over the past few years and, truly believe there's a lot of demand for something just a bit more nimble. Industries that we think are the best fit might include retail, grocery and convenience stores, within healthcare, everything from small medical buildings to acute doctor's offices, all the way to, senior living facilities. You'll hear our team talk a lot about small spaces and big places. So, when you look at a college campus or a corporate manufacturing campus, looking for long hallways, corridors, lobbies in hotels or offices, et cetera.
Great information. I think if I had a drum, I would probably beat on it now. We have some cool news to share. I understand you've entered Coby 18 into the Innovation Award for this year's ISSA show.
Yeah, shameless plug for the audience, right? But no, vote for Coby 18. And no, if you're in Chicago this year, please come by and see us. We'll have a number of folks from our team, and we'll be hanging out at booth number 1436.
All right. Well, folks, there you have it. You have all the information you need to vote. And thank you, Steve, for all you've shared so far, but we're not done. Let me ask you this, then we'll get into our Q&A. Is there anything more to add about ICE Cobotics and your latest equipment?
Jeff, we're obviously very passionate about what we do here at ICE Cobotics and recognize that we're just one small part of the larger picture that our clients are responsible for. But if we can help stabilize a portion of their business with smarter, safer technology that allows them to focus on other parts of their business, we really do believe that our technology, coupled with engaged clients, will elevate the industry as a whole. I certainly hope I was able to convey that today. But no, thanks for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure to be here today with you in the audience.
A pleasure, Steve. Let's get into the fun part, the Q&A. And again, any who are with us today, if you want to put in a question, please do it in the Q&A. There's a button at the bottom of the screen. You can type in your question there, and we'll get to as many as we can. Any that we can't get to today, Steve, I believe your team can follow up with at another time, but let's try to answer as many of these as we can. The first question is one, this is a question I would ask. What happens if I walk in front of Kobe?
Yeah, obviously get that question a lot. So on board Kobe, we have a suite of sensors, everything from LiDAR, 3D cameras, ultrasonic sensors, et cetera, that are constantly mapping the environment and picking up moving or stationary objects. So in the event that someone might step in front of Kobe, it's going to kind of assess the situation, figure out if it can go around that individual, but it's always going to try to get back onto its cleaning path and simply move around that individual.
Yeah, I've seen at trade shows plenty of people jumping in front of autonomous equipment, seeing what would happen. So it sounds like you figured it out for Kobe. Yeah. What happens if something on Kobe 18 needs repair or replacement? You touched a little bit on that, but that's a question that we have.
Yeah, it depends, right? So let's say if it's a consumable item like a squeegee, we actually include that in our subscription service. So we actually intend on folks being able to throw away that part, and we'll just send you a new one. And if it's something that's an actual malfunction or broken part on the machine, we'll solve that in a number of ways, whether that's engaging with our client care team and solving something virtually, all the way down to rolling a truck and getting a service technician out on site to actually repair the unit.
Very nice. We have a few questions coming in on the chat as well. They're asking about brush sizes and service, getting serviced. Can you explain your service model a little bit more for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So to go in a little bit more depth, we have what I'll define as kind of a hybrid service model for Kobe. So in the event you have a malfunction or problem with the machine, there's really three different ways in which we'll solve that. Number one, if you reach out to our client care team, I hate to say this, but sometimes it's the smallest things, or even a machine reboot. We can actually solve that issue, virtually, or it could be just a software upgrade. Number two, if we actually need to roll a truck and get a technician on site, we will dispatch that technician. And I would just reiterate again that with our fleet management software, ICE Synergy, we actually have access to see what's wrong with that unit, or at least any electrical components. So we'll know if it's a bad vac motor, so the technician isn't showing up blind trying to figure out, what's wrong with the unit. And then number three, in some cases, if we actually have to swap the unit out, we'll just send a brand new unit. So the customer would receive the new Kobe, take it out of the box, put the old unit back in the box. We pay for shipping and handling. We'll send that back to our U.S. headquarters in Western Michigan to repair.
Okay. Thank you for that. We have a few questions. I'm going to combine a few here together. They want to know about battery life, brush sizes, and the runtime. Do you want to speak to that?
Sure. And, we can always follow up with those folks individually, or, I'd encourage them to go to our website where we have plenty of spec sheets and details. But just to answer the question that we got today. So expected runtime is anywhere between 1.5 to 2 hours per charge. In an 8-hour shift, including charge time, we're aiming to get about 2 to 4 hours of total scrub time. Kobe has an 18-inch cleaning path. You're getting about 5,000 square feet per hour. And I apologize, Jeff, there was one more question I think I missed.
Brush size?
Yep, 18-inch.
Okay. And runtime? Yeah, I think you covered it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, we have all of our spec sheets and information, videos, everything's up on our website.
Okay. All right. Moving on to another question. This is, how do I confirm clean at multiple locations? I assume that's a software issue.
Yeah, so well, not necessarily an issue, more of a feature within ICE
Okay.
Energy. So again, within our larger fleet management software, ICE Energy, we have a metric that we've created called Clean Score. Clean Score essentially allows our customers to put in specific parameters, within their site, such as desired square footage to be cleaned or the amount of time that you want that to be cleaned. So when you deploy, a Coby, be it at one location or 24 units at several locations, will essentially produce a score, red, yellow, green, that will confirm the cleaning was done. And then from an end user perspective, on your phone, we had a heavy focus on this just being a scannable experience to where that operator can quickly run through all the sites that he or she might be responsible for and confirm whether the cleaning was done.
Thank you, Steve. We have a bunch of questions now coming in about some technical stuff. Here's another one. Are there any developments coming to help the equipment get up close to walls and edgings?
So yeah, out of the box, Coby is designed to edge. So we built this unit to perform as close to the edge as possible while operating in a safe manner. As I mentioned earlier, over time, as this technology, once you deploy and teach it a route, it's always going to be just increasing, the efficiencies and evolving over time. So we will actually see that unit get closer and closer to the wall as long as it's operating in a safe manner. But again, Coby, there are rotating corner brushes on the side, so it is intended to sweep.
Okay. And some are asking about the subscription term.
Mm-hmm. So we go to market with both a 1-year and a 3-year subscription service. And again, that's all inclusive, which includes the hardware, software upgrades at no additional fees, and service.
Okay. We got a lot of questions, Steve. Here's another one. Is there a ballpark floor square footage where the Coby 18 becomes cost effective?
That's a great question. I think my canned answer on that is just it depends. Every environment is unique.
Yep.
My counter to that would be, well, what's your desired frequency? What's addressable square footage? Do you have a goal in mind of trying to increase frequency? Right now we're actually we've deployed these units in spaces as small as 2,000 square feet. Like a convenience store, for example. Their goal though was to make sure, they wanted it to increase frequency by say 4x, and we're crushing those numbers. On the flip side, I think an interesting thing to consider is we talk a lot about kind of that ratio. Okay, Coby's a little bit smaller. Why wouldn't I just go out and buy a big machine? And depending on your facility, that might be the right answer. But we kind of counter that with at least consider the thought of having 4 machines versus 1. All else equal, if the cost was the same, you have the ability to move 4 different machines around your campus. And from a service perspective, if that one machine goes down, you're 100% down. If one Coby goes down, you're 25% down. So it depends on the environment. Again, we can be as little as 2,000 square feet or upwards of tens of thousands of square feet, just depending on your goals.
Yeah, it's a tough question. Yeah,
one we're happy to take offline too.
You bet. Sounds good. Here's another. Does the machine notify cleaners if it runs into problems through their phones? So.
Yep. So, with that ICE Energy app, it's interesting. Coby will, it almost tries too hard. We will always try to get back on path, but at a certain point, we've written the software to say, okay, if I'm just stuck, or if Steve, Jeff, and Martha are just trying to corner the units and mess with it, eventually it's going to trigger an alert. It's going to notify that end user that's responsible for deploying the machine and basically tell them, hey, I'm stuck. So that end user can then assess the situation, get it back on path, and you'll get that notification through the app.
Okay, good. And this other attendee wants to know, what are some ways you've had to adapt to bring your technology to the industry?
I'd go back to our entire business model, which is a subscription strategy. I think between the poll questions and some of our conversation earlier, we are truly trying to lower the barriers to entry in the space, both from a operational and from a financial perspective. Robotics, it can be a huge capital outlay with certain unknowns and uncertainties. So with our subscription model, we truly believe that this is kind of an unprecedented shared risk go-to-market strategy. We don't use the term skin in the game lightly, and it keeps us invested in your success because, we're earning your business throughout the duration of that subscription.
Very good. We've had a few questions about how many square feet per hour it can cover. You've talked about productivity, but one question is there an ROI tool to help with all of this?
Yes, we have different ROI tools on our website, but again, I think I go back to due diligence and preparedness and change management. Sometimes it's not as simple as just a math equation of trying to identify hours. There's a number of things that you want to consider. So we welcome that conversation to walk through the math and understand truly what hours could we free up. But it's just it tends to be a much bigger conversation on the impact that can have on your business and what you're doing with those labor hours.
Oh, very good, Steve. I think we've covered most, if not all, the questions. So I think we are at a point we can wrap it up. Anything else to add, Steve, to tell those still with us? I think everyone stayed all the way to this point.
Yeah, no, those still with us. Again, if you're in Chicago this year, come by and say hi. It's been an exciting past couple of years in this space. Every business case is different. So start a conversation with us. We look forward to being a objective and diligent partner.
Well, Steve, it's been a pleasure to do this project with you. I look forward to seeing you and your team and your autonomous equipment all over the place at ISSA show.
You bet. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, everyone.